Chapter 28 Surprise. We woke that next morning, checked the sky with our radar, then did our ablutions outdoors. For breakfast, we ate spaghetti and pork slices from a 1960s cans of Army C rations. We heated them over a small campfire and had 2 cups of coffee with that breakfast. The plan was to go up and out, then let the earth rotate under us, and then drop in around the southwest to try to locate where our friends might have went. We weren't worried about our fire, but when I put it out and made a line in the sky for a few minutes, we weren't too concerned because it would take time for anyone to get here, even though the road was still there, kind of. We were at a safe distance. Besides, we could hear them coming, and we would be long gone if we sensed anything on the ground headed our way. Within a half hour, that is exactly what happened. Our sonic ear picked up the noise from their vehicles, first coming from the south, probably US 1, which was about 2 miles or more away. And then they turned on the road, headed west on Grant, approaching in our direction. They were moving through brush and weeds, and we could hear it clearly. Things were snapping, trees were being moved. We knew it was something heavy. We secured our new weapons and supplies and prepared to launch, and it was then we heard them stop, then gunfire. They seemed to be in a battle with others that might have been camped closer to what used to be the Indian River Lagoon. There was some kind of conflict between different groups out there hiding east of our position. All of a sudden, the shooting stopped, and then nothing for a while. About 2 minutes went by, and we could hear people shouting through the brush, headed our way down the easiest path. We knew one thing for sure, and that was we didn't know who they were, but only that they were running from the same types of armed militia, probably, that we had avoided earlier. We wondered if they, being close to here, were our friends, maybe camped at the creek for easy access. It was a probability. Amy and I communicated at light speed through our practiced abilities. There were so many thoughts to process, but in our minds, in relative time, it only took a few seconds. We were much faster thinking together, and we would decide to share thoughts to make us one heck of a fighting force. We soon realized that 4 eyes on different screens was like having compound eyes, and 4 hands at the controls was deadly fast. We knew we were probably to blame for these people being chased, and that no matter who they were, they would need our help. This is vaguely what we read. So I armed myself, and Amy manned the helm of the ship. I then got out, ran over the road, which was hidden from our view, and about 600 yards from our hidden spot. Anxiety seemed to enhance our abilities to communicate to each other through our minds, and we could visually see what the other was experiencing when Amy concentrated. We seemed to be right about what was happening. At least that's what we read. That anxiety would be a key for me later, as I knew this even now while I viewed my life's events. Amy spoke. They're about 2,000 yards away from you, and the group that attacked them is about 1,000 yards behind them and pursuing them. That's what I read. The group that was chasing was the survivors from Miami who had acquired weapons, ammo, and vehicles from an Army reserve base from South Florida. But there was more. They all were affected by some kind of virus that was released from some pharmaceutical lab or biological weapon site. They are pure evil. The information wasn't totally clear to Amy because of what they concentrated on, but she did read that they were affected by it, which made them more savage and heartless. She then related, "The people running toward us are normal." "Is it the boys?" I asked. "No," she said, "they are unknown to us. It's not them, and the group being chased split in two directions." "Thank God it's not them," I replied. "What is the effect of the illness to the militants?" I asked. "If you can read that." "All I get is they are half dead and something even worse is controlling them. They are tagging the females they catch. They kill the men who are a danger to them because they are fighting back. There's a great rage in them that is almost out of control, even killing amongst themselves for power of control over others in their group. That's about all I can get because of their rage." "How many are coming our way?" I asked. "Seems to me there are 3 adults and 3 children. The adults are females." We both knew what we were about to do, and the plan was made clear to both of our minds. I started hearing them coming through the brush, and I then could see them. They were armed, so there was a danger. I stood behind a sizable tree just in case, and shouted to them, "Follow me," and motioned with my arm to follow me, which they did in a strung-out manner, as we all ran towards our hiding spot. "Quickly, in the ship," I shouted. Amy was at the top of the ladder, which calmed their anxiety because they had no clue as to who we were, but realized quickly we were friendly and did as we asked, but with some apprehension. As I climbed in, Amy related that the militants were close and headed our way. We talked to them and each other in both ways, verbal to them and thoughts between us. I was amazed at our abilities now. There were several vehicles and a tank. I asked Amy, were these the same guys we had met before? They're related and working together, but are a different group of same militants on patrol, looking for something, supplies, and now all of us. There's a communication between the groups and beyond to those in power over the country. Amy went below to secure all our new passengers and calm them, and did it with her mind. They did as she asked, which was to get into the bunks and strap in as I took the helm. She then took all their weapons and secured them. She related to me that without that mental connection, they would have never given up their weapons. That made me think of my other ability. I wondered if it was of any use. She contributed greatly using her evolving ability to convince our new acquaintances quickly to do our bidding. My mind went back to the problem at hand. As Amy climbed the ladder from below to take the communication and radar post, she released this to my mind. "I know where their men are hiding." "Are you saying we need to pick them up too?" "Yes, they're heartbroken. Their men sacrificed themselves by making the militants chase them first in order to give their women and children time to escape. So yes, we need to save them. They have honor, respect, and I feel their emotions." "Well, we'll have more weight and people than the ship was meant to carry, you know that, right?" "Yes," she answered, with the only look that could touch my heart. You know the look, the sad puppy look. Somehow the women below touched her heart, and I asked her, "Are you sure they are being honest?" They are. They can't hide that from me. Okay, I believe you. I have a plan, but first, tell me this. Are the militants that bad? From what I read from them, they have given up their morals and have given up their loyalty to a pure evil dictator who is their leader. He's a deceiver who is using them. Because of their illness, he supplies them a temporary cure for their dying loyalty. Literally. They are lost, not worthy of humanity. There is a limit of what I can read from them, and much that doesn't make sense. This was their final thought on them. We do have a right to protect ourselves from immorality and murder. They are killing the normal people and taking women as slaves. Okay, I said, I have a plan for now, and now we will react if shot at again. I asked if she could read the woman's men and communicate to them directly. Hold on, let me concentrate. I'm trying to get through to their leader. He thinks it's a deception. Show him what happened yesterday and who we are so that when they see us, they don't shoot at us too. Got it, she said quickly. I went down while she did this and tied one of our white towels to our ladder so they would know it was us. I then quickly locked the door and came back to the helm. Amy sent an image to the women's men of the white flag. A second later she said, "They got it, it's done." She was smiling when she was done with that communication and said, "He understands now and will comply." Good, we can't afford being disabled by the wrong impression, right? That's right, my love, she said. Let's do this, I said, and I moved us upward above the tree line. At first, it startled them, and I turned to show the white flag. It was then that the tanks started to aim at us along with men carrying ground-to-air missiles along with the rest of their group pointing their small arms weapons at us. The leader had his arm raised, and as soon as I seen it, I knew what it meant. If he starts to drop it, I would react. I asked Amy to let me know if he speaks first or if he will drop his arm first. He's going to drop his arm first, then speak. He will say, "Fire." I watched with intensity. We joined our minds to make our reactions quicker, each of us only watching half of the cameras and screens in all directions. We would each see a panoramic view, the two of us watching through 8 cameras at once. The two of us would react with me leading with my military knowledge at the controls of the ship as we had discussed. I knew how to take them out without any weapons. We had practiced this double mind thing before when I taught her to fly the can. Now we would use this to our advantage to save all of our lives. We had a cause to support now, whether we liked it or not. This was also our world. She read him and shouted, "Now!" I immediately moved to the side as the tank fired first, then up as 2 missiles were launched at us. I then outpaced them, slightly ahead of them as each of us kept track of them. I did a loop upward and to the rear of their position as the projectiles followed our moves, and they followed right behind us, and I flew back at them, bearing down on them from behind and above, waiting for the right moment to evade at the last second. I then changed our direction, not leaving the missiles enough room to react to follow us as I sped up. I was using their own weapons to knock them out, and it was done in such a perfect motion using 2 human brains at once, which was like poetry in motion. Militarily, it was a perfected move, which totally destroyed the tank and most of their men, if not all of them. The armaments in the tank did the most damage, destroying anything near them. This made the rest of them useless as a fighting unit, if any of them even survived. Amy spoke next, as I relaxed now. "I got us right above the trees," she said. "I could find the men and dive into the canopy if needed." "Let's find their men. Show the leader what we did. This should make perfect sense to them, as they should see the smoke and heard the explosions, and then find out where they are hiding. We might not have much time." She complied, as I got one of the matriarchs to stand next to the door. Within a minute or two, Amy had transported us. She had found them and put us right over the 2 men. She relayed to the leader, "Go to the certain clearing nearby," so we could land, and they complied. At that clearing, when we landed, I opened the door and stood back as the woman showed herself to them, which caused them a great relief and the lowering of their weapons as she waved them over. I, at that point, appeared and shouted, "Quickly, into the ship." They did not hesitate, and the first question I asked them when they were close enough, "Do they have planes?" "Yes," the leader said. "They are based at Patrick Air Force Base." This gave me a timeline for their arrival if they had a back and forth communication with their ground forces, because they possibly knew that they were under attack now, and probably for the first time in years they had probably figured out it was an opposition in the airspace that they controlled, and they obviously could observe with their radar. I opened the cabinet and told them to unload and secure their weapons, strap in the best they could with the others. I climbed up and took over the helm as Amy went to adjust our life support to accommodate the extra passengers. We sealed ourselves in and prepared for the jump out of the atmosphere to an orbital plane to make our final attempt at finding our friends, who were possibly west of here in New Mexico. It wasn't much of a clue, but it was all we had now. It was then that our radar picked up 2 objects heading our way. In the next 2 seconds, they passed over us, and we wondered if they spotted us. And sure enough, they must have, because they started their turn to come back at us. I wasn't in the mood to have another encounter, so I pushed it. Upward and out we went in less than a few seconds. We were now in space again. I then locked us into a fixed orbit and let Earth do the work. This would give us time to orient the new members on board. "Amy, go down and give these guys each one of those boxes of sea rats. Go ahead and give them the last of our bread. And then, when they're done, tell the leader to come up here to the command center so we can fill him in on us, and from them we need to know everything they know. I'll keep an eye out to see if anything else is pursuing us." The first thing out of the leader's mouth when he came up was, "Who are you people, and how in the world did you do this?" Amy explained, "We are about 14 years from the past, and it is best and quickest if I tell you mind to mind. Then I want everything you know about the last 14 years. As she read them, her whole demeanor changed. She had just learned what had been going on for the last 14 years. While this was being done, I noticed a blimp on our radar. It was in line with our position. After looking through our telescope, I moved slowly toward it. And unbelievably, it was the International Space Station. The damn thing was still there. Next, I had an imminent thought. Was there anyone still on board, still alive? Amy and I knew that they could detect us, and if they were there, they would be looking out the windows at us soon. So we came close enough to look for ourselves. The last time we avoided it. This time we were within 30 feet of it. The lights were on, but no one looked out the windows. We circled several times, but it seemed dead. Nobody responded, not even on the radio. It was nothing like the last time, and there was dust on the docking doors. No one had been here for years. It didn't take too much time to figure out. It was abandoned, and soon we left to descend into the New Mexico, or at least near that area. Our new passengers down below were amazed at what they were looking at on our screens down in the bay. There were 2 screens that showed some of what we were looking at up here. One showed stats and one showed revolving views through our 8 cameras. They were in awe, especially the children. Before our descent, I had them all secure themselves in the bunks again, the best they could. The extra weight didn't affect our ship at all, except that it was more crowded now. Amy was back on the comm console, and all was well. Then suddenly, the same message we disabled at the bunker appeared again on our secure shortwave frequency. So, as we followed the signal to a remote canyon, we found the location of its antenna sticking out of where nobody could reach it or could really see it. It was camouflaged as a cactus plant, and there was nothing else to see except natural terrain. "What do we do now?" Amy asked. "Well, it's a transmitter. So far as I know, an antenna receives too. So send pi back at them like this, 314.777. Okay, here goes." We waited, and nothing so far. 10 minutes went by, nothing. "A dead end?" she asked. "Maybe," I said. We both knew this would be the last time on our home world, which was now too dangerous for us to be here. And we both thought, how do we handle this now, with all these survivors? We both now knew that food would be critical, sleeping arrangements would be tight, water was going to definitely be an issue, more than anything. As far as we know, no one detected our re-entry, so I made us rise above the cliff toward the top of the plateau. The antenna was embedded on top of that plateau in the cactus. We checked the airspace above. "Nothing on the radar," Amy stated. I then said we now had to let our passengers know what we were going to do. Amy connected the microphone and tied into the comm so I could address all the passengers at once. 14 years ago, Amy and I, along with certain friends, developed the technology that you are now riding in, and that now saved you and will now save us again. Amy now corrected me. Sorry, you're wrong. What did I say? It's more like about 16 years, darling. I stand corrected. Really? Shit. So now I revealed what Amy and I, plus the rest of our crew members, had already agreed to do about this world's problems in the past. And then everything else that happened to us the day we tested this craft. We didn't know if they would continue to travel with us or what they would want to do once out of danger. Because it's a scary proposition no matter what. And now, either way, it was up to them. If they decided not to go and they were caught, we didn't want that revealed to the powers now in control. We had to consider this fact next before anything. We didn't have the supplies to take them far at this time, and we needed to know what they did to eat and how they resupplied themselves, which might help our endeavor. It definitely couldn't hurt to find out. So I told them the one problem we have is that to do this we need more water, which is one of the things that is keeping us here now, and especially for the bathroom facilities, and because of adding more people now, we needed a lot more. This would now be a one-way journey in a sense, and the capacity of the system would be capable of servicing the needs of all of us on board for sanitary reasons and for consumption, but without water it would be near impossible. Things could become unbearable. We need to find a spring either from the ice cap or a natural spring out of the ground where there is no biological contamination and the possibility of it being radiated. We would search for the right place to get that water and possibly food for a day or two more. We needed to know what you know. We were relying on them to educate us somewhat. So next, I told them the downside. If all of you stay, there is also this to consider, and that is, at this time, we cannot allow this technology to be captured by the bestial government system that is now in place. So, if while here we are disabled, Amy and I decided we would blow this ship to Kingdom Come because of the nature of this government and of the renegades running loose with weapons. I had to tell them why and to give them hope. Kind of hard to do now. So we decided to tell them almost everything. We discovered a new world to go to, and that is all we will tell you. Those in power now, if we were caught, would then find and take this new world, if that information was let out. They could learn this through our records and logs. There are people there, those who we believe have inherited paradise. They now occupy and own it by what we both now consider the grace of God, which may have been prophesied. I'll explain all that later. So we'll allow you to talk to each other and vote on it. You are welcome to come with us or to stay. It is your choice. When you're ready to give us your decision, call me down and we'll talk more. If you have any questions, address them to us then. I then turned off the microphone, and Amy rerouted her communications back to sending and transmitting. Still no reply, I asked. No, nothing. We both looked at each other, and I could see tears welling up in her eyes, because this meant that our relatives were probably gone, and let alone our friends too. I went over, we hugged as I calmed and soothed her the best I could. We were soon called down as the passengers made their choice. It was voted on, and the decision was they would also go with us rather than face the evil that was rampant on the globe now. Amy and I climbed back up to the control helm and looked at each other with sadness in both of our faces, and kind of shrugged our shoulders and turned our faces sideways in an expression of unknown anticipation of what we now faced. Amy, why so sad? I have read their leader's mind on what happened after 2006, and I know what they have been going through here. She inserted what she found out into my mind. I received that information, and it was horrific. There were wars with the Muslim nations, the Russians, the Ukrainians, the changes in the weather which started in 2013, and it was all manipulated. It progressively got worse because of the weather warfare. We were used to a storm that might have 2 tornadoes that might pop up every now and then. But now, during those times when a storm front passed, it might produce up to 80 or more tornadoes. There was a massive flooding event that went on for years. Then the earthquakes started, and they were numbering in the thousands. Tsunamis, forest fires brought on by chemtrailing, hurricanes that would encompass the entire United States. There was the breakout of Ebola and other new diseases. Some only attack children in ways we never seen before. Cancer suddenly was rampant from the food they ate. Then the worldwide flooding and flash freeze that ended the lives of over a third of the world's population. All of this was brought on by the corrupt world government and politicians. This was like seeing the worst disaster documentary ever produced, with a one world evil government that took over and then demanded total loyalty through atheism. The extreme Muslim theology was the beast, and it made the prophecies become true. No one expected that anyone would be beheading anyone in the 21st century, which had been the cause for not believing that part of the prophecies, but they made it come to pass. A world leader from Russia joined the beast system along with China and started to take over the Ukraine first, then Europe, India, and most of the Middle East, and now the whole world, or what was left of it, all because of the American politicians. China and Russia now was covered in glaciation, and millions of Chinese soldiers took over Australia and parts of the Philippines. The new leaders of the world had relocated to Africa and were based near the oil nations and controlled all of the oil in the Middle East, and they had Israel under siege. They were still putting up a valiant fight, but were slowly at this time losing, and they were backed up into Jerusalem like in a corner. The aliens finally revealed themselves a few years ago and united with the world leader, promising great changes and peace through their science but they demanded an end to religious beliefs for the new age. But now global warming had reversed, and the Earth did what it does to heal and fix itself, which is a new ice age. Now, I was sad because there was nothing we could do to change any of it, and it looked to be humanity's destiny to become extinct, especially Christians. There is only one that could fix this, but it might be a few more years of suffering for those that are normal and still believe. So there was some hope, but not much. As I viewed our past, a voice entered my head. You are receiving the understanding I want for you. I couldn't question the voice anymore, and all that I could do was to keep reviewing my life before me. As we traveled, we were stunned at what happened to Texas and the southern states' contours related to the loss of water in the Gulf of Mexico. It didn't take us long to get over where we thought New Mexico was. The terrain had a light snow cover here and there, which made it look as alien as a new moon or a planet. Further north, most mesas now had snow piled up so high in places that you could only see the very top of them. And even a little further north, you could see a giant ice cap edge. There was beauty there that undermined its appearance as the snow falsely brightened up those landscapes. Next, Chapter 29, As We Turn.